but put your name on the jersey. You're somebody. What team are you going to be captain of? What team are you going to succeed in? Who's going to come and see you? You have something that they want to see, that they want to hear.
Have you ever heard the phrase becoming the best version of yourself? Yeah, me too. But what does that even mean, and how do we become that person? I'm here to help you navigate through those questions and come up with actionable steps in order for you to live your best life. We've got to discover what we want. We've got to figure out a plan on how to get there, and then we have to go. We can't just sit and wait any longer. Life won't wait on us. So come join me on this constant journey to become the best version of yourself and to find your best you. I'll see you on the other side. All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Nick Carrier's Best You podcast. I am super excited for today's interview. I have Dr. Charles Redd with me here today. Dr. Charles Redd, to give you guys a little bit of background, he is a nationally recognized Fortune 500 business leader, professor, speaker, and ministry founder. He has a really good track record of transforming underperforming sales teams at a number of different companies, but the Hershey Company, PepsiCo, Frito-Lay, and then Coca-Cola. And you're a faith-minded man as well. You're a big advocate for Jesus Christ. And I'm excited to dive into all those different areas that you specialize in and that you focus in your everyday life. So I appreciate you taking the time with me today, Dr. Charles.
It is my pleasure to join you on this podcast, Nick, and I look forward to having a great conversation with you on today.
Awesome. Well, very good. Well, basically, the way I want to start is I kind of want to go a little bit back into your background to give everybody else a little bit of context, but me as well, because I don't know exactly, I couldn't put all the pieces together. I want to kind of start with the timeline of your schooling, because that's what I was been able to find. So are you from Detroit? Are you from Michigan?
Yes, I am. I'm born and raised in Detroit. I attended school there at Cass Tech High School, which is the best high school in Detroit. Okay. You have to apply to get into this school.
Oh, wow.
And I entered into a curriculum called Science and Engineering. I figured that out. I have nothing to do with engineering right now.
Right.
But I continued on after graduation from high school and went on to Western Michigan University in Kalamazoo, Michigan, which is halfway between Detroit and Chicago. Very cold there in the winter, a lot of snow coming from that Chicago and Michigan lake. I finished my bachelor's in communications and minored in business administration. I later went on to grad school at Central Michigan, which is about in the middle of the state of Michigan in Mount Pleasant. And I finished my master's in management and supervision. And then I took a little time off and decided to continue my education, and I attended and enrolled in Ashland Theological Seminary and picked up my master's in religious studies, waited some more. Several years later, went back and obtained my doctorate degree in transformational leadership from Ashland Theological Seminary. All of this going on while working for Fortune 500 companies, so I was always working simultaneously and going to school. And I am a believer in continuous learning and growing.
Yeah, I am as well. That's for sure. So it's cool because I think, all of the higher education after high school is very applicable to what you do today, right? Interpersonal communication, business administration, management, supervision, that sort of stuff. And then going to the theological seminary and learning about religious studies, getting your master's and your doctor in transformational leadership. I forget the exact name of it. But basically, what I want to ask is, when did the vision of what you want your career to look like start to become a little bit more clear to you? Because I did hear in a past thing that you originally wanted to be a school teacher.
That's right.
And so when did this career vision start to become a little bit more clear for you?
Well, teachers run in my family, a lot of teachers, and I thought I would be a teacher, a matter of fact, a history teacher. And I remember as a kid, about 9 and 10 years old, I would invite the families of my friends over to my house, and we would hold school in my basement, and I would be the teacher, and I would take my allowance money and go to the store and buy candy bars and reward the kids for doing well in my classroom. Now, I was just 9 years old, and my students were probably 8 and 7 years old. But I knew right then and there that I wanted to make a difference in people's lives and teaching and inspiring people to continue to grow on. And I took that on in the college, being a resident advisor, having to do that in a leadership role, participated in my fraternity as in a leadership role as well. So I've always been in leadership, and I felt that, we can always get better. And that's been my aspiration, is to share the wealth of insights and knowledge. I still don't know it all, and I surround myself with people where I continuously learn and grow. So it comes down to selling. That's what I do. I sell and I manage a team on the corporate side. But then also I sell, encourage on the other side in community, and encouraging people that they can become who they choose to become, and that they're all, and we speaking together, that we're like diamonds in the rough, and we just need to be polished up a little bit and put ourselves out there and make a difference in this world.
Right. So what I'm hearing is basically you knew you wanted to be a teacher and you knew you wanted to educate people, but it didn't end up being in the educational system. It just ended up being in these other fields and these other areas that you began to be a little bit more passionate about. Is that about right?
Yes, exactly. When I think back, I did end up teaching. I had intended to be a history teacher, and I didn't get a chance to do that. I entered corporate America and began a sales career, entered into management, and then I had an opportunity to teach at the Oakland Community College there in Michigan, and also Clark Atlanta University in Atlanta, on a part-time basis, and had an opportunity to teach the course of Introduction to Salesmanship, Introduction to Marketing. And that was my passion. And the students were juniors and seniors, which I liked because I knew they were there to get to learn and to get ready to graduate. And it was just a fun experience.
Mm-hmm. So you had a lot of experiences early on in terms of, teaching and things like that. What are some steps or some things that you did at an early age that you really feel helped benefit you to get where you are today? Like, what did you consistently do at a young age that helped you to get where you are today?
I think the key, matter of fact, I know the key was surrounding myself with positive people. I have a best friend. We've known each other over 40 years, and he came from a great family. His mom would invite us in to the home after we come from outside playing, and she would give us life lessons. She too was a teacher, and we thought we were getting ice cream and cake and food, and we get to go home. But no, she kept us at the table, and she asked us probing questions, and she encouraged us, and we were like her students in her class, but she didn't make it seem that way, but that's what it turned out to be. And her children, she had two children, one of them good best friends of mine. He was just a pure example of a good student, a good friend, a person who stayed out of trouble. And we continued on from elementary school, the junior high, to high school, to college, roommates, and he was a great example. What I got out of it was that we could go to the party, so to speak, but we knew the importance of coming back to the dorm and getting the exam, getting prepared for the exam, and then 4 years later graduating. I shared that same thing with my daughter, who also is an alumni of your school, University of Georgia, and she took that same principle of getting around positive people, encouraging people, and holding people accountable each other. And that has been the difference. I think that set me off on the right track, because I wasn't always the brightest student. I was one of those students that was very hyper, and I would get my work done and then bother the other kids, and that was the way it was. But I settled down later on in life and took things a little bit more seriously.
Right. Well, now you have a little bit more direction on where to channel that energy, I guess.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, cool. So you've already, you preached the importance of surrounding yourself around great people. And it sounds like both your friend and his mom were pretty good kind of mentors in a sense, and taught you maybe some good lessons that you're currently using. What are some of those lessons? Maybe what's the most important lesson that your friend's mom, taught you during some of those ice cream sit downs that she would throw life lessons at you guys?
Yeah, when I think about it, I must say that during that time of growing up, we were raised by a village. That means that neighbors were like our godparents because they watched after us. Going outside, we would leave home and hang out all day, but we had lunch at somebody's house. We'd come around and have dinner at another place house. So it was a combination of people who had a vested interest in the community, a vested interest in the kids that were growing up, and it paid off. It made a difference. When I think about transferring those skill sets and what I got out of those learnings was that just be the best self, as you have on your banner, the best you. Be the best you can and be that example and always be optimistic, always have your mindset on your dreams and to go out and accomplish them. The sky is the limit, as we would say. And I think that was very helpful in the fact that we were encouraged. And that's what I like to do is encourage people and inspire people, because where you're sitting today does not mean that's where you're going to be tomorrow or the rest of the way from earth to heaven. And along the journey, it was instilled in us that if we could help someone, and that would make a difference in this world that we live. And I carried that same principle over into the corporate world. And really, there's two things that I think about when I think about what I do in corporate America, and that is drive for results, because that's what we do. We sell products and we are there to grow sales and to expand our share and to be profitable. But then the other side of that too that's so important is that the people, making others around us better. And that is so key in life, is that what is it that I can do to deposit in the person that I encounter. And I understand this too, that in those connections with friends, there's something in you that I need, and there's something in me that you need. And the two come together. And we hear the expression that iron sharpens iron. And that's really the way of life as we go along the journey. The people that we encounter, there should be an exchange. And it should be in a positive exchange, because not everyone has it all, not everyone knows it all. But when you can bring two people together and bring their experiences, their talents, their gifts, and intertwine them together, it makes for a better relationship, and it makes for a better way to impact the community and impact the workplace, and for the world, it impacts that as well.
I think that's so important. I love that, because actually the reason that I was inspired to create this podcast is simply from one quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson, which touches exactly on what you just said. And it reads like this: every man is in some way my superior, and in that I can learn of him. If you always have the curiosity or the wherewithal to believe that somebody else it has something that you could benefit from and that you could learn from, then you're so much more present in the moment and in the conversation, and then vice versa. Like you should be able to give like your experiences to other people to benefit them and to better them. And I just think that's a very actionable thing that people can start working on, is being around more positive people. Like you said, you learn that lesson from them, and now you go and you're very mindful about the people that you hire and the people that you have in your inner circle to make sure that they're lifting you up, and vice versa. So I think that's really cool.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a couple of expressions that I picked up along the way, and it reads like this: never regret a day in your life. Good days give happiness. Bad days give experience, worst days give lessons, and best days give memories. And that's what really this journey is all about, in the ups and downs and the valleys and mountaintops experiences. But at the end, there's something in you, there's something in me we must share with the world. And it's called purpose with a vision.
I love it. Well, I'm always very interested in why people do certain things in their life, like why they're passionate about certain things. So you got your bachelor's and your master's, and basically in business type stuff, right? Interpersonal communication, business administration, management supervision. Why go back to school and do religious studies? I think a lot of people are religious and practice their faith, but I think it's to another level when you really want to be super educated in it. So why go back and do religious studies?
Well, when I really think about it, I was always involved in the church community as a kid. And even though I went away to school to pursue the professional side of it and working for corporate America, there was still deposited in me the level of faith in the God we serve. I am a born again Christian, and I just felt that, in my life, I'm not perfect, but at the same time, I continue to strive to be better and to make a positive imprint on the lives of others, and to be quite honest and transparent. I think that's the key in today, is that when we look at religion, we think in terms of people being perfect or people looking down their nose at others that perhaps missed the mark. But in actuality, we all have missed the mark. But we're grateful and thankful that we do have a Savior, someone who has paid the cost and paid the price that we too can live. And so when we are charged to let our light shine and to be salts of the earth, that inspired me, is to be there with people and always having a heart with folks. And I learned that from my mom. My mom was a preacher's kid, and she was a giver, and she would take the resources that she would have and invite the community in and feed them and have a great time and celebrating. I didn't quite understand as a kid, because I was a person on the cleanup committee before and the cleanup committee afterwards, and a lot of these people I didn't know, but she took them in and they had those joyous experience. She's gone on to be with the Lord, and I realize today that that was deposited in me, and that always is a pleasure of mine to share the experiences and to fellowship with people. So when I think about faith, when you think about the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's really so important, that I want to be treated a certain way, and people deserve to be treated a certain way. And if we exchange in that way of exchanging, then we're going to get along. The world's going to get along better, and we're going to love on each other more. And that's so important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think that really is. I want to kind of stay on this topic, sure. Because one thing that you say in your bio is that you have the perfect balance of faith in the corporate setting, right? In the corporate workplace. So tell me a little bit more about what that means and how you keep that balance.
Well, you don't go into the workplace just really shouting out a whole lot of religious quotations and trying to get people to buy in on your particular religion, because there are people of different faith that are involved in the workplace. And what I do is try to be a good example. And when I say a good example, is that I let my faith come forth in my optimism and my positive leadership. And when challenges or negative experiences come, I try to always take the high road or look at what we can do. We're about solutions and finding solutions, and that's what we bring the talent together, and we work together, because we're still going to need the diversity of talent and experiences. And so when we hear in the Word of God, let this little light of mine shine, when we hear that, we simply are saying, it simply means that let your actions speak louder than your words, and your actions should align with brotherhood, sisterhood, love for each other, caring for each other, and being there for people. And that is the difference. And what happens, Nick, and you know this, is that when you act that way and it's genuine, then people are drawn to you. And then as they are drawn to you, they have questions. And then you're able to share your faith, and they have a choice. They can either accept it, or they could wait, or they could reject it. But at least you didn't go beat them over the head with the Word of God. You lived it, and you allowed them to ask you questions. And then you have a right to share with them your personal testimony. So the Word of God and the personal testimony coming together, it makes all the difference. The thing about it, people can see a real person or a phony person, right? And they know the difference. The world knows the difference. The child of God knows the difference. And when you're real, it is an opportunity where people says, no, there's something real about this person. What they say and what they do, it lines up. And then what people like too is when you make a mistake, you own it, and people respect you for it. When you've fallen short of being perfect and you call it out, they respect you. And that's the difference versus the opposite of finding some fault in someone else and not looking within the mirror and looking at yourself. People see that as being a hypocrite, and that's not what we're about. It's really about loving and being real and transparent.
I like that because, like you said, it's all about being the model of it instead of just throwing it in people's faces, taking ownership and taking responsibility, and those sorts of things. I want to kind of go back a little bit to earlier in your career. You know, you talked about how surrounding yourself with positive people and the right people to lift you up was a huge thing to get you to where you are now. But do you remember maybe think of a particular choice that you made that was maybe one of the most important decisions that you ever made, but you didn't really realize the significance of it at the time?
That's a good question. Who, I think I made the decision when I think about it now is that, it's one thing to continuously hang around positive people, but you're going to run into negative people and you're going to run into naysayers. And I think the exchange for me, instead of avoiding them, I took on two things. One, becoming a servant leader. And then two, loving the hell out of people. That literally, and that makes all the difference in changing mindsets is no matter what they say, I'm going to still be a servant leader and I'm still going to love them and love the hell out of them.
Gotcha. So basically, no, I like it. I like it. Changing your mindsets towards the people that you're around, because there are certain people in our lives that you're not going to necessarily block out completely, right?
No.
You just have to be able to kind of change your mindset towards them, I think. So I think that's a huge learning key.
Exactly.
So to transition a little bit more into like the raw business side of things, I guess, for lack of better words, you do a lot of transforming underperforming sales teams, right? You go in there, you do trainings, you do teachings, you do lessons to help people increase their sales. And you've done a lot of that over the past years. Is there kind of a common theme or common thing that underperforming sales teams are all doing? Like, is there like a thing that they're all doing wrong that you've seen a commonality amongst a lot of them?
Yeah, I think it's purpose and vision. And so when a new leader comes in and deals with an underperforming team, they must first listen to the team, make an assessment, and identify what the needs are. And then as you identify the needs, it's just like a baseball team putting 9 people on the diamond and determine who's going to play what position. And once you have identified their strengths, then you can put them in a place. And like Vince Lombardi would say, hey, look, it's just like a football. This is basic. We're going to go back to some blocking and tackling kind of things. So you keep it simple and you start building momentum when you start looking at the things that are most important. Lou Holtz said, win. What does win mean? That acronym WIN. What's important now? And what's important now is what's going to get the ball going in the right direction or the automobile going in the right direction down the highway. And that is, you don't start off with great big old things, but you think in terms of, okay, how do we take the best of the best and how do we form it to the place of making it simple? And then how do we do that in keeping people accountable? And so a lot of times you have to track, you have to rank, and you have to post things to keep people focused, because it's like playing the game of basketball. You're running up and down the court and someone all of a sudden unplugged the scoreboard and everybody forgot what the score is. And so people become complacent. They don't get back on defense. They don't know what the score is. And so people can run into situations where they can get injured because they're not focused in on the game. But when people know where they're going, how they're getting there, and what the end game is, then as a leader, that is our job to employ those and put people into winning positions and to encourage one another. As I've said, you cannot expect to get all from the one leader. So you're going to have to develop people in the sense that there's something that they can contribute to the overall team. And once you identify that, it's like being a scout who goes out and scouts for talent to get signed up on a team. They're looking for those skill sets. In baseball, they're looking whether they can hit, whether they can run, whether they can catch, all of those different attributes. And so you're looking for those attributes in terms of starting up a team in a positive way. Do they have good planning skills? Can they multitask? Are these people, do they take self-initiative? Do they have the can-do attitude? And so all of these different attributes you're looking for in these individuals. And then you're utilizing those people that are on the team as some of them step up in leadership, they too become assistant coaches and they help carry the message out to the rest of the team. So it's just like being a point guard on a basketball team. The point guard is a person who can score, a person who can set up people for success, a person who could get into the film room with the head coach, review the game film, come up with plays together. So they're the coach on the field. So underperforming teams, as you develop talent and you have people that are making strides, then you utilize their strengths and to encourage the others on the team as well. And then it becomes more and more cohesive and a more solid group of people, and everyone holding each other accountable in reaching the overall goals and objectives that you've set. I think that's key.
Gotcha. Yeah. So there's a lot there. I think what I'm hearing is that boil it down. Don't make it too complex. Make it simple. Have a specific purpose, specific vision. But I also think that both in our personal lives and probably for businesses, it's super hard to narrow it down. Like, what is this? What is my one purpose? What is my one vision? Because I think businesses have a lot of goals. People in their personal lives have a lot of things that they want to do, a lot of things that they want to accomplish. So what are some things that businesses and people can do in their personal lives to help narrow it down to really, in your terms or in Lou Holtz's terms, figure out what is important now?
Well, when you can look at it from a personal perspective, and I can give you this perspective from a business side as well. From a personal perspective, I often find in career fairs, matter of fact, I've had an opportunity to be at several career fairs at UGA recruiting students for my company. And you'll be amazed at how many students still have not quite figured out what it is that they want to do, but they spent 4 years and a lot of money to obtain that degree. So sometimes I come from around the table and I have a one-on-one conversation, and I say to the student, I says, look, you're still trying to figure it out. We're here at this career fair. Hundreds of companies are here. Not hundreds, but 150 companies or so are here, and they're looking for the best of the best. You've got to know what you want. So let me help you. If every profession, whether it's a doctor, lawyer, fireman, teacher, whatever that profession is, they all pay $10 an hour. That's just what the going rate is. When you graduate, you're going to go into a career, they pay $10 an hour. Which one will you choose? There lies the purpose for your life, because you've taken away the salary. Oh, I want to make $200,000 being a so-and-so. But when you take that off and everything pays the same, then the gravitation to something that's near and dear in their heart, they gravitate to. And that's the impression that you want them to see, that, look, maybe I got the degree in X, Y, Z, but I understand that I really have a passion for something else. And go after your passion. We've hired people that have degrees in other majors, doesn't kind of align with the sales and marketing side of it, but they made up their mind that look, this is what I want to do. I want to get in front of people. I want to express my ideals. I want to share. So they come in and they be successful. Now, from a professional side of it, it is so important to understand at the end of the year, what did we all sign up for? And whatever that is, that's the starting point, because that's what we're going to be evaluated on. We could be doing a good thing, but are we necessarily doing the right thing? And so in leadership, we've got to understand what are the right things that are going to move the needle. Comes back to that 80-20 rule. The 20% is what we need to focus in on, because that's going to be, at the end of the day, where we're going to be judged upon. And so when you have that type of mindset with what's important now and the 20% of what's going to drive the needle and what's going to get us to the finish line, then you start breaking it down into components, small components, because you can't eat the elephant in one large bite. You're going to have to break it down into pieces, like putting together a puzzle. And then you will see, and you'll help the people to see the progression and that what you have left to do. And then everyone gets excited and they rally around what's left to do. And you begin to get teamwork, and you begin to get an operation that's working in a oneness where everyone is looking out for each other.
Right. So it sounds like basically looking down the road, like, what outcome do you actually want? And from a, from a business perspective, thinking, Like really what outcome do we want? Do we actually need? And then really focusing in on the few things that are actually going to help you move the needle every single day. Just being laser
Well, when you
focused.
think about that, Nick, it comes down to this. I'm in the business of sales and marketing. And the founder of our company said, nothing happens until someone sells something. And so people who come into our organization, and they understand that it's all about putting smiles on people's faces, being able to distribute a product that people gravitate to, that they repeat and continuously buy our product. And we have a saying in our company, see candy, buy candy, eat candy. And that's what we want to do, is put smiles on people's faces. And so sales is number one. We're driving sales. So if I sold $10 worth of candy last year, you can bet we're going to try to sell $12 candies this year. And so increasing sales is so important. And then at the same time, we want to pay the bills, and we want to get on TV, and we want to get on social media. And we want to certainly continue to put our brand out there. That costs. And when you take away all of the expenses and the innovation and all of the things that we're doing to continuously to be relevant, we've got to still be profitable. And so as long as we're bringing the profit in, then that's important. And then you can't forget about expanding, and that is the share of market. And so from a business, it comes down to those three things. We're going to increase share. We're going to increase profit. We're going to increase our brands. We're going to do those things through people. And so people are the key. They're the link in the chain to make all of that happen. But before we can make all of that happen and be profitable and do all of those great things and increase our sales, we're going to have to train our people, and we're going to have to educate our people. That's why in our business, it comes down to relationship selling and fact-based selling. And so you have to have great relationships with people. You've got to be able to get along and be able to connect with people and have an impact. But in having that relationship and impact experience, you're going to have to know what you're talking about. So you're going to have to know the product. You're going to have to know the company. You're going to have to know the customer's product and their company. And you're going to have to be able to listen and be able to connect, because at the end of the day, on the other side of the table, they're in it for the same reason, and we're in it. But how is it that we can partner up and that we can all benefit and contribute to society in such a way that people are proud to use our services, are proud to buy our products? And so it goes hand in hand.
Yeah. No, I love it. I'm narrowing down the few things that are most important to your core business, and then figuring out how to get the right people in there, and then how to educate those people in the best way possible. So you're around a lot of young professionals, right? You go to career fairs, you hire young professionals. I'm intrigued as to what separates the young professional who goes on to excel in their career between the people who don't maybe quite as excel as much in their career. Like what separates those two sorts of people?
Nick, it takes passion. When you're passionate about something, you don't need an alarm clock to wake you up. You bounce out of bed, you have a plan, you have a vision. If you can see it, you can achieve it. If you have the right attitude, you can accomplish it. And so the difference maker is where people identify what it is, the end game. So if I was taking a trip from Atlanta to California, that's over 2,000 miles. That may be the end game where I want to get to. But along the journey, there's going to be stops along the way. And there's going to be experiences that I pick up along the way. But people who know where they're going, they have a mindset of taking the action first, and then taking the time outs to identify where they're at along the journey, make any adjustments. It's like in a ball game. It's going back to a sports analogy in basketball. The team is getting blown out of the game. The other team is outscoring them. They're down by 10 or 15. Well, what happens? The coach calls a timeout. They go into what we call a huddle, and they determine what it is that is the weak link. Why are they down? And they try to make adjustments. People who fail forward, they make the difference. People who fail backwards, they become paralyzed. They become immobile. They give up. They stop trying. But people that ever made anything of themselves, that have ever been successful, they have failed forward. And they have been able to identify and examine what caused the failing. And they've been able to make the adjustments. And they have inside of their DNA is perseverance. They continue to strive, to continue to learn, and they continue to grow. And that's the difference maker. When you believe something and you have passion about something and you have the never ever give up mindset, then you will make it. No matter if you're moving just 1/16 of an inch each day, as long as you're moving forward. And that is the key, is to continue to move forward and continue to hold on to the vision and make the adjustments as needed along the way.
I love it. I hear a lot there, because I think like almost probably the first step is having the passion, because like the passion allows the vision to be a little bit more clear. And then once you have the vision, it's about really committing to making that vision happen, because a quote that I think it's a quote from Zig Ziglar, but I'm sure you know who Zig Ziglar is. When you're committed, you'll find a way. If you're not committed, you'll find an excuse. That sort of thing. Like when you have those stops, those challenges and stuff, if you're super committed on that vision and you're passionate enough about it, then you're going to find a way around it and you're going to make it on the other side of it.
Absolutely. I'd like to share with you another quote here.
Please do.
You were born to win, but to be a winner, you must plan to win, prepare to win, and expect to win. That's the difference maker of a leader going from good to great.
That's great. I love that. So you're big into leadership. I do feel like a lot of leaders do it a little bit differently. I think there are different leadership styles, whether it's sports and business or anything like that. But what do you feel like some of the most, if you had to pick like two common qualities that all, like every leader basically has, what would those couple of qualities be across industry, across background, across whatever it is that the leader is a leader in?
Well, one that comes to mind, a leader, a very good leader and a great leader, they understand that they don't have all the answers, but they also have a keen eye for talent. They have the ability to look in the mirror and see the shortcomings that they have and identify those candidates that they can bring on the team. So they're in a place where they're not feeling like they have to be the leader that knows everything, but they're secure in their own skin in hiring the best talent to make everyone better. When you start hiring folks that know less than you, your company's not going to go very far. But when you are able to identify people who are smarter than you in other areas, and you're able to bring them together in one room, you'll find that you'll go places. So that's so important right there. Number two, that's so important is that the level of confidence, not arrogance, but confidence in knowing what it is that they want to accomplish, believing in what it is that they set out to do, and continuously inspiring the people to come along and be a part of the bus ride to success.
I think, I mean, confidence, of course, I love, but the first one I absolutely love because it's not really a thing that you would necessarily first think come to your mind when you think of some great leaders, but like it's kind of being curious about what you don't have yourself, or the skills that you don't have, and being able to find other people to fit the pieces to the puzzle. Because I feel like, you mentioned how that's important when you're hiring people, but I feel like the first thing that came to my mind when you said that is the New England Patriots and like Tom Brady and Bill Belichick being super aware of just like the different pieces of their team that they know they don't have yet, and that they know they need to, like, their weak spots, and they know they need to acquire people in those areas to be the best teams possible. And those are the two of the best leaders there are in football, but in anything. So I really love that, like kind of taking a step back in humility and realizing that you don't have all the answers.
That's right. Leaders hire leaders. You go back, you're using the New England Patriots. If you go back and look at their draft, you'll find that they drafted players that were captains on their team, that were folks that were go-to people on their team, where people looked up to them. And then also you'll find that it wasn't always the shining penny that they went after, but they would go after people that had potential, and they felt that they could train that person and develop that person even further. And another thing that I noticed with them is people that perhaps had given up on folks that they've taken the chance with some of those people because those people had something to prove, and they wanted to show the teams that gave up on them that they made a mistake. So they are good at that too. So those are some common themes that I observed just watching from the outside looking in.
Yeah, no, I think that's really cool. I like the saying leaders hire leaders, because I feel like, and I was again attributing it to the New England Patriots. I think Julian Edelman, or was it Julian Edelman, was played lacrosse. He played quarterback in high school, but he played lacrosse in college. And I don't know this for sure, but I'm sure he was the captain of his lacrosse team as well. It's not even, I don't even think it's Julian Edelman. I think it's a different player. But either way, I know that they had probably hired, it's the idea of leaders hiring leaders. I think that is super key. So I'm going to go back to a little bit more towards, well, I guess you can take it wherever you want. But, you have all these accolades. You've transformed underperforming sales teams to great overperforming sales teams, and you've done really well in your career. You're doing more and more motivational speaking. All these things that you could be super proud of is what I'm getting at. Is there anything that you're most proud of that most people wouldn't necessarily think about?
Well, I think the end game has gone from me to we, W-E. I'm most proud of taking that which I have learned and to continuously be relevant in today's time and to pour into others. I get the biggest joy out of seeing the growth of others that I've had an opportunity to contribute to make them a better person. And I enjoy that. And also what I plan to do as I continue on is to not grow so old where it's just us four and no more, but to continue to meet people such as yourself and fellowship with you and others and stay relevant in today's time. I never want to become outdated or obsolete or status quo. I am a firm believer of continuously learning and growing, and we have a generation that's coming up that's far smarter from a technical perspective than we can imagine, and I want to stay just like that. I was impressed going to the Apple store, and I had something wrong with my iPhone, and I signed in, and this senior citizen who had retired, she was the person who waited on me, and she took my phone and she diagnosed what was wrong and she fixed it. And I asked her the question. I said, wow, this is wonderful. She says, yeah, this is what I love to do. And she could have been content to stay home and do nothing or be with the grandkids if she had them. But I was inspired by that because what that showed me was that here was a person that learned and then wanted to continue to learn and then take that learning and share it with others. So she was the oldest person of that group of people that were helping folks, but she knew as much or more than everyone else that was coming in that store. So that was great. And that's what I want to be, just like that. Yes.
Yeah, no, I love pulling that lesson out of an everyday experience. I think that's really cool to see somebody who is that old, but because she's so passionate about it, she's willing to continue to learn no matter what it takes. Back to a little bit, you do a lot of teaching on sales and different business principles. And I'm sure afterwards you get a lot of questions from people that you speak to and a lot of questions from probably young professionals that you hire and then within your own company. Is there a question that people don't ask you that you wish they would after learning from you?
Ooh, now when I think in terms of participating in a career fair, I wish they would ask for at the interview, because what we want to hear from those people that approach us, we want to hear why me and why I would make a successful employee. And then we want them to ask for the interview. So that is from that particular side. When I think about it from a personal side and helping and depositing into people, it's not so much what question I want them to ask, it's that I want them to actually take the things that they've learned and apply them and to make the action steps that have been given. What good is it to get some great information and don't utilize it? And so that is the main thing that I want to see. And I want follow up because, one thing somebody tells you something and you let it simmer and you think about it and you receive it, you may have some follow up questions, or not even that. You may even have some additional feedback to make it even better.
Right.
And so that may have sparked you to continue to research and to get more information and then come back and share it. That's what I would like to see.
No, I love that because I so believe in the importance of being able to take something and then actually go apply it. Like anytime I listen to a podcast or like I watch a YouTube video on which I'm trying to learn, I'm always making sure that I'm trying to take notes of things that I can actually start applying in my life in the different areas in my life that I'm learning. So I'm always really interested in like what holds people back from not applying certain lessons that they learn and not doing the things that they know they should do, but for whatever reason they're not. So what do you think holds people back from actually applying certain lessons that they learn?
I think past failures. When people have failed, sometimes they may say, I won't do that again. I won't try that again. And they stop. Or someone has talked them out of it. They may have said their dream is unrealistic. They don't even try.
Mm-hmm.
So how do they overcome that? That fear?
You overcome. For one, it starts with you. You got to believe it within yourself. And when someone like me comes along, I'm there to help you identify and to look within yourself. You have something that the world needs. You have something that you can share, and don't sell yourself short. So there are people. I'm just one of many. And when you're able to see and hear and read, then you find yourself in that process. And that's what we want people to do. When you shut everything off, you're not going to find anything. If you don't look, you won't find. If you don't knock on the door, it's not going to open to you. And so people that are interested, we've got to provoke people, challenge people in a positive way. And that's what we do as teachers. That's what we do as managers and coaches. We provoke our players, our students, to go to the next level. And they realize that they can do more. You take someone who, in baseball, you see coaches working with young players on how to hit. They start off hitting off a tee, and they build up confidence. Well, the person may not even want to get into batter's box, but then the coach is there. You can do this. We're going to start simple. And then we're going to graduate and take it up a notch. So it's about association. It's about being in places. You can't meet anybody. You can't grow if you don't go to the places or tune into the social media, or to the television set, or to the radio or the podcast. You've got to be open, and then something's going to click. And when that clicks, go after your A game. That's what it's all about. In baseball, the pitcher gets to the major league mainly on their fastball. That's the number one sign. All right, well, what is within you that's the number one thing that you do well? That comes pretty simple. And now it's just about getting with people who've been there, done that in that same field, and getting a chance to get in front of them, asking them questions so that you can narrow down the mistakes, and that you can get in front of people who know things that you like, and you get involved in those things. And I wished I had learned that a little bit earlier on in my career. I got it a little bit later, but I understand it now. And so now I share the message. Let's find your A game. Everybody's got one. Let's develop it.
Yeah, well, so you just kind of touched on one thing. It was really a good transition into the next question. Is there a certain thing that you wish you knew back, like one thing that you wish you knew back when you were starting off your career, or maybe a piece of advice that you would give yourself back when you were starting off your career that you didn't know at that time?
I wish I had more of an unction. What I mean by that is a drive for what it is that I do, and lived it, and became a slave to my gift. And you think about, I go back to Tiger Woods. Okay, Tiger Woods, they put a golf club in his hand at 6, 7 years old, and he became a slave to his gift. And he played it and he practiced it and he played it and played it, and he became one of the best of the best in the game. So when I think about my own, I wish I had gravitated to that what I know today, and that would have become my everyday. You look at all of the great athletes, all of the great people that done anything, they got it early, and that became what they did day in and day out. And you're not going to become great until you spend the time and put in the work and continuously discipline yourself to stay focused. Then you too can be good. I guarantee you, someone who can't even shoot a free throw, if you practice like Larry Bird did when he was coming up before he came into the pros, he would practice and shoot 500 free throws a day. Mm-hmm. And so it got him to the NBA. And when the game's on the line, nobody wants to foul him because he will make that free throw at least 8 to 10 out of 10 times. Mm-hmm. And so that's with life. That's what we do each and every day, what it is that we have to offer. If we serve ourselves in that day in and day out, then our gift will make way for us to benefit those that we encounter and to make us profitable in what we do, whether it's financially or mentally or spiritually. We're going to be able to be that much better because we have sold out to that which we have been given, and that becomes who we are. And that's what I want to do, and that's the way I'm going to finish up life, is that I'm going to spend more time in knowing who I am, what I'm about, and what I am to do, and to leave in this earth when I go on to heaven someday.
that fires me up. That phrase, be a slave to your gifts. I think that's cool. So, and not to like dive to necessarily like deep into you, but I think it's really important because I feel like a lot of my listeners are my age. They're younger. They're starting off their career. They're trying to figure out what they want to dive into. They're trying to figure out what their gift is. What do you think held you back from being a slave to your gift?
Well, so many different options. I can go outside and play. I can go to a sports event. I can go to a concert. I think it's time now. Those people that we go to see to play basketball, those people we go to hear to sing, those people, we must step back. These folks are getting paid. They're doing great. They're making millions of dollars. They put in the time. They put in the work. Now it's time for you. It's time for me to put in the work of what I have. Not so much to get paid, but the fact of the matter is, why don't we reverse this thinking that these people that succeeded, we too can succeed in that which we have been given. And that's what I want people to realize, is that I admire the folks when I go and have my favorite experience at a ball game and my favorite team, I want them to win. But one thing I've shied away from, and I'm not knocking people who wear jerseys to these games, but I when I see they put the other player's name on the back of their jersey, that's who they like, and they're excited about them. Sure, I respect all these great athletes, and I like them, but put your name on the jersey. You're somebody. What team are you going to be captain of? What team are you going to succeed in? Who's going to come and see you? You have something that they want to see, they want to hear. And that's what I want to change it and get more people than is just a few teams out there and a few stars out there. There's a mass of people that are stars. And let's get busy and let's get to work and working on ourselves.
That's awesome. Be your own hero, right?
Yeah.
I think what you said earlier on in terms of having so many options, kind of what I began to think of is that maybe you didn't have the willingness to sacrifice some of those options for just really channeling in on being a slave to your gift. Do you think that might be kind of a thing, the willingness to sacrifice other things for one particular thing?
Yes, and to cut the TV off and cut the music off sometimes. You know, all the great pianists, they play the piano. Look, they got to practice, and they practice every day. Right. And so that means that their favorite TV show they can't watch. Maybe they can watch it later. But the point of the matter is that there's a discipline. That's the word, discipline. When you made up your mind to do something, to be something, to try something, then you got to work at it. Because at first you're going to fail. You're going to feel like giving up. But when you stop listening to yourself and start talking to yourself, There's a difference. It's like weightlifting. Your body is saying you don't have another rep in you. But when you talk to yourself, I got one more, one more, one more, or that workout partner saying, you got it, one more, then you're going to try. And so we need the discipline first, and we need that one more attitude that is going to make us better, make us stronger and wiser. But when we give up too soon and never even try even further, then that cancels out everything that we do, because woulda, coulda, and shoulda, that's going to be your anthem. Right. But you're going to have to be in this winner's circle when you're able to look back and say, I woulda and I coulda, but I made it. And that's going to be the difference.
Gotcha. Great. So we're down to the last two questions. I always ask the same last two questions with everybody. And the first one, I always throw out the age number. So how old are you currently?
How old am I?
Yes.
Oh, my God. I'm a senior citizen. I am 61, soon to be 62. But I don't plan to act like a 61 or 62.
So you certainly don't look like it.
In my mind.
You certainly don't look the age. That's for sure. But, we talked before how you have very specific goals for the end of the year. And then we've talked about the importance of establishing your passion and then establishing your vision to be able to know that map to be able to take to make that vision come true. So I'm going to challenge you a little bit. 10 years down the road, you're going to be 71, almost 72. What does 71-year-old Dr. Charles look like? What has he done? What has he accomplished? And what are you currently doing?
Well, I can tell you what, I'm still going to be active. I'm still going to be encouraging people and inspiring people. I'm still going to be traveling the world, speaking to people all over the world. I'm still going to be able to make a difference in a positive way. My message is going to be very simple: positive leadership, transformational leadership, the renewing of your mind and reaching your full potential. I look forward to living into my 80s and perhaps my 90s, still being vibrant and full of energy and taking life experience, working hard, but at the same time celebrating life, celebrating people, and being a difference maker, a change agent, a person who is a repairer of the breaches in the world, the potholes of life, helping people see it's not over, it's not over, the best is yet to come. And so I'm excited. I'm looking to transition out of corporate America at some point, but all of the years and experience out of that, I'll never retire. I will continue to live and live life in a way that people will also be living the same lifestyle, because it's going to be contagious. Well, if I can catch a cold from somebody, then you can catch my positive leadership, and you too can be a motivator and a teacher at the same time.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love it. Well, before I ask the last question, I want to acknowledge you, Dr. Charles, because I think your willingness to always be that consistent learner, that consistently wanting to educate yourself, because you know that you don't have all the answers, right? You're willing to be curious about your flaws, about the things that you don't know, and you're willing to go learn those things, and you're willing to bring other people who have the knowledge, the skill sets, the positivity to allow you to heighten your game just through simply association. So I think that's really cool that you're super self-aware about that, and you're willing to admit that, that you don't have all the answers, and you're willing to surround yourself with the people that are allow you to fill that gap. So that's really cool. But before I ask the last question as well, I know people are going to be energized and have a new heightened positivity after listening to this, and they're probably super pumped up right now. They're going to want to learn more about you and the different content that you put out. So tell them a little bit about your podcast, Dr. Charles Speaks, and then the other stuff that you got going on right now and that you're working on.
Yes, I do a weekly podcast. It's the Red Line, and the Red Line is all about leadership, and it's all about principles of leading and growing personally as an individual and making a difference in this life. And so I'm excited about that. I also speak in churches. I speak in schools. I speak in communities. I speak all over the place where people are interested in my message and my positivity, but also in my teaching, because I think that's important. It's one thing to get motivated, but it's another thing to get taught something and make a change And that's what I'm all about. I want to get you all pumped up, but at the same time, I want to see change in your life. I want to hear back from you. I want to hear a praising progress report that you're making in your life and in the life of others. I also mentor young men and get with them and also continue to pour into them about corporate America, about life in general. And so those are some things that I'm interested in and working in. I'm always looking for opportunities to speak to new audiences and to share and to all give them some insights and things about life as well as corporate America and as well as personal growth as well.
Awesome. Also, and you can find those things at drcharlesred.com and then Dr. Charles.
That's all you got to do with 2 Ds, Dr. Red, REDD.com.
Perfect. And do you hang out on social media at all?
I do. I am on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I'm on those social media. So look for me, find me, join me, and look forward to sharing with you anytime, any place.
Awesome. So the last question I always ask everybody is, it's a lot about what we've already been talking about. I always phrase it that I think we're always on the constant journey of becoming the best version of ourselves. I don't think we're all ever at the best version of ourselves. Hopefully the day we go to see the Lord, we're as close to the best version of ourselves that we could possibly be. And I also feel like it's a very unique journey. I feel that the way that I'm going to become the best version of myself is going to be very different than the way that you become the best version of yourself. So what I want to ask for you personally is if there are 3 things that you could currently do or 3 things that you could currently work on to become closer to the best version of yourself. What are those 3 things you could do or 3 things you could work on?
The thing that I'm learning and continuously growing is continue to read and develop your skill set, continue to ask questions, continue to, there are people who are smarter, that have done that, been there. Get in front of those people, ask the good questions, learn from them. This is what I'm continuously doing. I don't have all the answers, and we don't have to reinvent the wheel. But people like myself come along and can take a lot of stories and experiences and intertwine those with even some of my personal experiences. And it's just the delivery, it's the passion, it's the believability that it can be done. And it will be done, that confidence. These things are going to continue to make us all better. And so I like to say this: never stop learning, never stop growing. Make yourself humble where you can always learn from everybody, but stretch yourself. I remember as a kid wanting to play and learn the game of basketball, and I was playing with the bigger kids, and they were blocking my shot. They were stopping me from scoring. They wouldn't even check me. They let me shoot wide open. But I realized that I learned from them, and my game got better because I got tired of missing the basket and not being able to score on the bigger opponent. So I had to learn new moves. I had to become a little bit more better at what I do. And then they started picking me to play with them and be on the team and be a contributor. So we can continue to make ourselves better, and we'll find ourselves getting in the game, so to speak. We'll come off of the wall and we'll be on the dance floor. We'll be active participants, and we'll be able to bring people along with us. That's what I'm going to continue to do. Stay on the dance floor and continue to learn.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I appreciate your time, Dr. Charles, and everything. Hope you have a phenomenal rest of the day. That's all we got.
Yes. Well, thank you. All right. Good deal.